Hi, today we are going to talk about verb and noun in this session. What is a verb? A verb is a word that describes some sort of action in the sentence. We will be using the Greek word luo, which means loose. Now, this is not a loose which means losing a battle, but this is the word loose means untying something. So we're going to use this word luo for our context when we are talking about the verb. Luo means loose for our verb context. We know that there are several types of tenses. We will begin with the present tense. Tense denotes or shows or describes the time the activity was done or is done in the sentence. The present tense of a verb means those forms of a verb which refer to the present time. It is opposing to the future or the past tense. For example, the word luo, as I said earlier, means I lose or I am losing. Now you need to understand that when we are talking about present tense in Greek, we are also talking about two forms that a particular verb will show up, that is in present and present continuous as well. So luo means I lose, and it can also mean I am losing. Now we also know that in a sentence formation, there will be something called the subject. This is very important. Now what is a subject? The subject is the person or the thing that is in the sentence that does the action in the sentence. You just need to remember this, that subject is the person or a thing that does the action in the sentence. For example, look at this sentence. I am losing. Luo means I am losing. And here the word I is the subject in the sentence. Now, as we go along, we also find that there are something called singular and plural. Verbs in a given sentence, in a given context, can appear as a singular or plural verb. It may appear in its singularity or it may also appear in its plurality depending on the context. So verbs are either singular in number when the subject is one person or one thing, or it is plural in number when the subject is more than one person or more than one thing. Now, you need to understand that in any given context, when you find a sentence, you would find that if the subject is in singular form or in singular number, the verb will also be in singular number. If the subject is in plural number, the verb will also agree with the subject in its plural form. You need to just register these things in your mind right now. So, if the subject is in plural number, the verb will also agree with its plurality. So the verb will also be in plural form. But if the subject of the sentence is in singular form, then the verb will also agree with its singularity and it will also appear in the sentence as a singular form. So what do we understand by it? It denotes singular or plural, denotes the number in the sentence. We find that present tense denotes the time in the sentence, and in the same way we find singularity or plurality denotes the number in the sentence. How many were there? What was the quantity of the context or the sentence? Who all were? How many friends? How many balloons? How many cakes? How many apples? So singularity and plurality denotes the number of the sentence. For example, let us look at this sentence. The word luo, which is in first person singular number, means I lose or I am losing, as we have already read it earlier. But the same word, when it appears in third person plural, we see that its form changes. It becomes luusin, which means they lose or they are losing. So you see these two sentences. Luo, first person singular, I lose, I am losing. Luusin, and there is a diphthong of omicron and upsilon in between, and I hope you are noticing that. That's why the pronunciation is luusin in third person plural form, which means they lose or they are losing. Now, there is also something called as person in the sentence. We find that verbs are described as first or second or third person. So there are three persons: first person, second person, and third person. We find in first person the subject will appear as I or we. I in singular form, we in plural form. In second person, the subject will appear as you in both the forms, in singular as well as in plural. The third person, the subject will appear as he, she, it, and they. He, she, it in singular form and they in plural form. Now, look with me to the Luo present tense table. We have the person, we have the singular form, and we also have the plural form. Let's look at the first person, singular and plural form of the verb luo. Luo in first person singular will appear as luo. That's the first person singular form of luo, which means I am losing or I lose. But in first person plural, it will appear as luomen, which means we are losing or we lose. In second person, the word luo will appear as lueis, which means you are losing or you lose. In second person plural, it will appear as luete, which means again you are losing or you lose. So you notice in second person singular and plural, it is written in different ways. The endings are different, and I'm going to come and explain in a few while from now how do we notice or how do we see and understand the endings. What are endings? Endings in Greek are very important. You need to know how to identify the endings in the Greek. So we find that second person singular, luo, will appear as lueis. There is a diphthong there, epsilon and iota, eis. And in second person plural form, it will appear as luete. But both are translated as you are losing or you lose. Let us look at the third person singular number. Third person singular number luo becomes luei, which means he, she, it is losing or he, she, it loses. But in third person plural number, we find it appears as luusin. We saw this word earlier as well. Luusin, which means they are losing or they lose. Now, when we ask you or when you are asked with a question, write the present tense table of the word luo, you have to write luo, lueis, luei, luomen, luete, luusin. And then you write the meaning. I am losing, I lose. We are losing, we lose. You are losing, you lose. He, she, it is losing, or he, she, it is losing, or he, she, it loses, or they are losing, they lose. That's the present tense luo verb table. And I hope that you would take note of this table, because in Greek we have several tables that we need to learn and memorize for our understanding, which will also help us to do our translations well. So we find luo, lu ace, lu a, luo men, lue te, lu sen. That's the present tense luo verb table.